and welcome to Smart Talking Women. I'm Yvette Rowland, and today I get to speak to the beautiful and very talented Mim Gray, who's a wonderful singer-songwriter. Hello, Mim.
Hello, Yvette.
Hello. Thank you for talking to me today.
Pleasure.
Now, I've listened to loads of your tracks, and you really are talented, and I wanted to know, do you come from a musical background?
I do. I've got two brothers, two sisters, mum and dad. I think my dad was always, the classical music was always kind of blaring through the house growing up. My brother took up drums. My dad he'd be in the local choir. Mm-hmm. We'd go to church and he'd be singing, and my sisters played guitar and piano. So there was lots of instruments always being played in the house. Mm-hmm. Music-wise, there was sort of different genres coming out of every single bedroom, from rock to heavy metal to funk, that sort of stuff, as well as my dad's classical music. So
did you know from a very early age, I want to sing, I want to write?
I think I used to sort of dream about it. I think on all my school reports it was like, Miriam could do so much better if she stopped daydreaming and staring out the window, and I would just be constantly listening to music and imagining myself doing it, but never really quite, I suppose it only happened when I was about sort of 17, 18 that I actually made that kind of decision to do it. It wasn't necessarily something I wanted to do, but the person who made it happen, mm-hmm. who literally kind of pushed me over the edge, was my first boyfriend, Paul. And I was 17 at the time, and I'd moved out of my parents' house into this 24/7 party kind of house in Barnet. And he'd moved in with his brother John, who was a sax player, and Paul was a bass player. We had a party one night, and he found these tapes in my room and decided to play them to everyone. Right. Sitting around drinking in the front room and stuff, and it was just me on the piano singing my own songs, And I was just completely mortified, but people's reactions were so lovely. They would be like, "Is this you, Mim?" And I'd be like, "No, it's not me." And they were like, "No, seriously, this is really good." And Paul just said, "Look, you need to do something. This is great." And I was like, "Yeah, but I don't know how," and didn't have the confidence. And he with his double bass and me on vocals, mm-hmm. he literally would shut me in his bedroom, and we'd just sit there for hours and hours, and then just going through songs from Van Morrison to Suzanne Vega, and I'd learn all sort of the songs that were around then, and then he got me a little gig in the local wine bar called the Greedy Grape, and who I've since found out from other musicians who are quite well known now have sort of passed through that way in that within the time that I was sort of doing it then. Right. And
so do you think without him pushing, do you think you would have?
Yeah, I mean, I think he had the confidence, mm-hmm. and I think I just looked up to him because he was that bit older than me, and he had the confidence and I didn't, so he kind of gave me that the thing that I needed to kind of start off.
So I know that you were with him for 6 years, weren't you?
Yeah.
Is that right? And then obviously you got the devastating news. Would you like to tell?
He got pancreatic cancer. So yeah, he was about 34, and it's probably the worst kind of cancer you can get. And so yeah, he was gone within about 6 months.
It's brutal. My father died of pancreatic cancer.
Oh really?
And I really, between finding out what it was just weeks for my father, but it's a brutal, isn't it? Yeah. Out of all the cancers, like you say. So there's not a lot of time to sort of prepare yourself. Well, there's never time anyway to prepare yourself, but with that, it's short, isn't it?
Yeah.
Did you do anything differently for those last 6 months when you were together, or did you just carry on like...
No, I think the world stopped really, and I think all the way through it, I don't think I ever really took on board that it was gonna actually happen. That sort of death was going to be inevitable.
And how
literally
old were
didn't. I was 24.
Oh, it's nothing, is it?
No, no. So it happened, and I think so. Everything just stopped, and then. I think I hear him now as well. I remember when we were sort of together in this house in Barnet, and he was a French teacher at the time, although he was playing bass.
Right.
to pay his rent and everything, and but he would sort of lean over in the mornings, and he thought I was asleep, and he'd just say these little things that were really, and I can hear him now, you know, you've got to do this, Mim. And he'd say things like, you know, you're really special. And I'd sort of like laugh in my head, but he'd sort of just little words of encouragement, you know, and then he'd sort of go out the front door, and then so I've just kept those in my mind, and when he went, I just thought, well, you know, I mean, I did lots of other things when I was at that age as well, just to sort of earn money. So, so I just thought, no, I'm gonna carry on doing the music, because.
So he's a huge cheerleader. He's a huge influence on your life, and then suddenly he's not there anymore. What happened? I mean, what road did you take after that?
I was actually doing some nursing at the time.
All right. What kind of nursing?
Well, I was just a bit lost, and I think my mum was such a great nurse, and she said, well, why didn't you, you know, try your hand at this? And so I did, and so I joined an agency, and I just went into elderly people's homes, and just dressed them, washed them, you know, make sure they took their medication, and cooked for them and things like that. And I loved it, actually. I really, really loved it. Sitting down and just having a chat with them and hearing their funny stories, and I could combine that with then going out and still getting the gigs in, and then I slowly I'd started a function band with Paul.
Right.
And I won't tell you the name because it's a bit embarrassing. But we did do loads of gigs, so I kind of tried to keep that going.
Right.
And I think the guys in the band at the time were lovely, and they knew that I needed a bit of support. So I combined that with the caring at the time, and then it kind of got to the point where the music just got, you know, the gigs were coming in more and more, and I'd get to bed at like 3-4 in the morning.
And still have to get up to...
I'd have to get up at 6 and, you know, nurse the elderly. And I, you know, sometimes I was late, and you were their world, you know.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
And I just didn't want to, you know, there were people out there who weren't doing what I was doing and who could give them, you know, the dedication. So I let it go. But I did it for about 4 years. Right.
Do you find as a woman you have to work, though, harder than a man in the music profession? Are the rules a bit different for women?
I personally don't think so.
Right.
But I think some women probably find that the rules are different to some degree. But it's harder for women, but I think really because there are so many more men involved in it, you know, and you walk into a studio and you're guaranteed to probably be the only woman in there. But I think for me, treading the boards for so many years before I was in that situation, I was doing gigs and driving there myself, turning up. A lot of the time, you know, I was depping for other singers, so I was in a band with 6 guys I'd never met before.
Right.
And some were like really lovely and really welcoming, and some were like, yep, the singer, here we go, da 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 da. So I sort of took on, I adapted myself to in those situations, and I almost sort of became more of a guy than more of a bloke. Yeah, you know, and I kind of played them at their own game, and, you know, I sort of told jokes and, you know, swore a bit and all that sort of stuff. But
does it put you off men, being around so many men in the studios and touring?
No, not really, because there's like, I don't know, I mean, you know, doing a gig, I can be in the crowd, or I can have sort of, you know, if the client's booked, I can be mixing with them, or sometimes people are so lovely if you're doing a party for someone, or you're, you know, I mean, I do a lot of original stuff for people's weddings, or you know, because they've heard me and they say, would you please play, and, you know, whatever. But so I end up mixing with all the people there, you know, you're not sort of like, well, you're the band, you stay over there, and, you know. And people who aren't in the music industry, some men particularly, you know, if they're in sort of, you know, the business world, they are, you know, personality-wise, they're very different, you know. And so I kind of feel when I walk in a room with a load of male musos, it's kind of like walking into my family home in a way.
Can I ask then, with other female singers, is there a lot of competition, or did you find that you were helped along the way by other female singers?
I have always wanted to be in a band literally with just women in.
Really?
It's difficult to find people that you really connect with, and that, you know, they play the different instruments and blah blah blah. But so the one person for me is my co-writer, Corey Josias, and she used to be in Marillion, actually. She was a backing vocalist in Marillion.
Right.
And she's a great writer, and I love being with her. We laugh, you know, tell rude jokes, and it's all just, it's great. And she has completely supported me. I need her in the studio,
Right.
because we just think the same when it comes to production of songs. And I do fight with men in terms of production. They do
Right.
sort of, I'll be in a situation where they'll say, well, I think it's a bit slow actually, and I'll go, well, I don't think it is. I think it should be even slower. And Corey will be like, yeah, I think it should be slower too, that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
two's better than one.
So do you draw on each other's experiences when you're
Very
writing?
much,
Yeah,
very much.
So how much of the writing is about what's happened to either one of you, and
All-
how much?
all of it.
All of it.
All of it.
So if we want to know a bit more about you, we just really have to listen to the lyrics then of your songs.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. I mean, we finished this tune a few weeks ago, A Little Bit of Love, and I love it. It's kind of a bit, it's a bit sort of Eagles. It's a happy tune, which is nice. And she had just gone through this bizarre situation that really was emotionally very upsetting for her with someone, and that she got quite close to, and then it sort of backfired, and she was very upset, and then she had the anger thing, and she was on the phone. I was going, I put my little hat on to, you can talk to me,
yes,
and we got through it and stuff, and then we had a writing session the next day, and she was just completely fired up.
So
she was like, right, okay, and then she sent me these lyrics. There was a couple of verses. We hadn't got the chorus or anything. And I just went, and sometimes it just happens, and I just looked at them and I picked up the guitar and went, seems we've had a long night, like that. And we had this writing session. I went, what do you think of this? And she went, oh my God, it was on Zoom. Oh my, this is great, this is great, this is great. What about this? And I'm going, okay, I'm going to go to that chord. And then it just boom, 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 boom.
Oh, how lucky though that you work in tandem so well with each other, don't you?
It doesn't always work like that.
Right. Any fallouts with her?
Yeah, occasionally. Yeah.
What happens then? Because you can't write if you've...
Oh, I just press the exit button on
no
Zoom.
Zoom today. Off.
Yeah. No, we've had our fallouts, but literally, the next morning there's a message. Listen, I'm really sorry, and I'm like, no, I'm really sorry. No,
me.
I'm really sorry.
It's me. It's
so
not
no,
you.
we get through it.
Did I read that you co-wrote with Kylie Minogue?
I wrote I wrote a chorus, actually. Me and Corey wrote the chorus to one of her songs. It was called Obsession, and it was on her Obsession album. And that was through Mantronics, who I'd done a single for back in the day. So...
Did you have any dealings with her?
No, I didn't actually. We had a few sort of
feedback?
Written... correspondence, and she just said, really love what you've done, and there were a couple of other songs on the album which she asked me to ghost for her. So I sang it basically, and then she not necessarily copied, but that's how she'd learn the song. Right. So unless she wrote it, she would sing other people's songs and then learn the song through the person who's singing them. So then she said, would you mind if I just left your BVs in it and da-da-da-da. So I was like, let me think. No, that's fine.
It's a tough one, isn't it, really?
That's fine, Kylie, I don't mind.
So tell me, I know that you've worked obviously with Tony Hadley, because I met you because you introduced us. Also, Tom Jones.
Mr. Jones.
What is, now I have to say this because I love Tom Jones.
She has to say it.
I have to say it. Who doesn't want to throw their knickers at Tom Jones? Did you?
The cameraman.
The cameraman does not want to, but he doesn't know what he's missing here. Did you throw your knickers at Tom Jones?
No. Just in case my husband's watching, no.
But what?
No, I didn't.
I hope we're not going to break the spell here because I adore him. But what was he like to work with?
He was really lovely, absolute gentleman, and I basically supported him on his live tour in England. So we did all these big sort of stadiums, but outdoors. And he was just lovely. He had a sort of a very, very, when you say sort of caravan, that's not the right word for it, but that was his green room. Because it was, they kind of wheeled it in because we were in the middle of nowhere, like football, rugby pitches and things like that. And it was very posh. And and I went in after I did the gig, and then there was about half an hour before he came on stage, and he'd say, look, come in and have a cup of tea or something before I go on, have a little chat.
Did you have your own caravan? Don't tell me you got a little tent next to his caravan.
No, we had to walk to the actual... He just wanted somewhere that was literally came out got spruced up in a little sort of mini tent, and then he went straight onto the stage.
Right.
But we were we had a little, mini bus for the band, and we were wheeled off to whatever that thing, where they serve tea and coffee, and you can watch the match. That's where we were.
Right. And was it daunting because you've got all of his
It was
fans
absolutely, it was like the most terrifying thing in my life. It was so
I don't think I'd
scary.
be able to breathe. I actually don't think I could breathe.
No, I'm feeling a bit like that now. Actually, thinking about it, it was like, oh, this is. But I think for me, I just want people to feel like they're having a really good time.
Yeah.
And that's what you want. And it's not like this is me and this is my material. I was like, and people are there to see Tom, and and I've seen gigs as well where you want to see the act, and then the support act comes on. You're like, it's lovely. Yeah,
but
great,
it's been going on a while.
Off you go. Where's so I just wanted people to like it, and they were lovely. They were so friendly and really encouraging, and clapped and stood up, and and now actually even however many years that was, I mean, there's so many people that stay in touch with me and follow me, and
from that,
and message me all the time, and send me a little photo on the anniversary of me doing the gig.
Because he was really nice about you, wasn't he, Tom?
He was lovely, yeah. Well, that's one of the little quotes I use.
Yes, you must.
That he came on stage and said, Mim Gray, my favourite singer, Mim Gray.
Fantastic.
I was like, wow, I think Tom Jones just said that about me.
Didn't you? Am I imagining this? Paul McCartney.
No, you're not.
What happened there?
Well, it's quite a few years ago, but I'd done an advert for Thomas Cook, and I was doing a Dinah Washington song, What a Difference a Day Makes, and he had just had Beatrice. Right. With Heather, and so he was going to. He has a party every year, basically, for the people that work for him, for his family, and he hires a big sort of country house, and he got in touch with my manager somehow through one of his contacts, because he heard this advert and he goes, I don't know who's singing there, but I want her to sing at my party.
Right.
And so I got a call from my manager, and he said, yeah, Paul McCartney would like you. And I was like, look, Mike, what's going on here? And he goes, no, honestly, he really would like.
It's the real.
This is real.
Yeah.
And so so long story short, I turned up, and with the band I took with me at the time. Yeah. And
were you nervous?
Yeah, I mean, it was just weird. I don't think I was nervous because I didn't know whether I'd be introduced to him or whatever it was, but I went up, the lady who was sort of running the whole thing, whatever you call her, she said, look, there's a room for you upstairs. And I went up there, and it was about the third floor up, so I was kind of got there with my bags, and I was like out of breath, and I sort of swung the door open and chucked my bags in, and I sort of walked in and shut the door. And I knew someone was in the room, and I turned around, and it was Paul McCartney feeding Beatrice with a bottle, because Heather, I think, was still in hospital. Right. It wasn't a complication with birth, but I think because she has a metal thing in her pelvis from a bike accident. And and Paul McCartney said, just pull a chair up, because I said, I'm so sorry, I'm going to leave. And he was like, no, pull a chair up and come and sit down. So I was just, literally, and I sat there for about half an hour and just talked. I don't even know what I talked about. Probably embarrassing. I don't know.
It's funny because Paul McCartney is part of our culture, sort of, isn't he now?
Yeah.
So it must be really weird to be in a room with part of your culture, your history, Paul McCartney, feeding a baby. It's not really what you imagine, or...
No.
I have a Paul McCartney story.
Oh, go on.
Oh, yes. You can't. It's all about me. So, I just left drama school, and I was, not as glamorous as this, and I was selling a Clinique or perfume or something, I don't know, at one of these places. It was Liberties. And every day you'd go in, and you never knew what you were selling that day or trying to flog. And suddenly, I was underneath the counter thinking, what am I selling today? No, I never had a clue what I was selling. And I'd be looking, and then I heard this tapping, and I looked up, and he went, hello, and I went, it's Paul McCartney. So I said, hello. The voice had gone up a few octaves. But one of those moments you're looking, thinking, this isn't real.
Yeah.
This is real. He said, I'm looking for a perfume. He was married to Linda then.
Oh,
so I'm going back a long time. He said, I know, I'm still only 29.
She looks amazing.
Thank you very much. That's what my doctor says. So he said, He said, I'm looking for a perfume. He said, I don't want anything too expensive. I went, oh, so there.
Maybe the rumours are true. Carry on.
So I'm like looking, and I went, well, this one isn't very expensive. I thought, what am I doing? I'm trying to find a cheap perfume for Sir Paul McCartney for Linda. So can I ask, did you sing? Did you actually have to sing in the end?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I sang. He wanted, not It Had to Be You, the very thought of you, because that was their song apparently.
Right.
So we started it, and I had to give him the nod or something. I sort of went like that when we were going to do it, and he had Beatrice, and he held up the phone and had me on whatever it was.
Right.
And I think he'd actually just called her, to be honest. So I think it was on audio,
Right.
and just so she could hear it, which I thought was quite sweet.
That's a lovely story. Right, so Mim, I'm loving the names. Tell me some more names that you've worked with. Paul Young.
Paul Young.
Love him.
Dave Stewart.
Oh.
Brand new heavies. They were quite big in the 90s. But they're still, I mean, we go, I mean, Japan and Europe, they're still massive. Yeah, Gilbert O'Sullivan. ABC. Remember ABC? Look of Love?
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah,
that was bizarre, actually, being on stage with him and singing The Look of Love. I mean, I was doing backing vocals for him. But yeah, fantastic. And I've just grown up with that song since I was a kid, and then suddenly you're sort of singing it, and it's
what were they like?
Brilliant. Martin is lovely. Can be quite bossy.
Right.
You know, I mean, literally, if it's not going the way he will pull you up on stage in front of everyone.
Oh, really?
So you have to just nail it every time, you know. And sometimes you don't always do that, but whereas someone like Paul Young is the easiest going, down-to-earth, lovely guy. Tony Hadley, he's a sweetheart.
You see, Paul Young and Tony Hadley, I've grown up with, and
Yeah.
I'd have been really disappointed if you'd have just turned around and said, "Oh God, you've no idea," because their persona that we see, is that what you see when you're working with them?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, I don't think either of them are false in any way. You know, when you see them on camera through your TV, or you hear them on the, they are like that. They're very. I mean, I've been the last time I saw Tony, we were doing a big 80s comeback thing, and I was in the dressing room with loads of men as usual.
Right.
And he was and he's just hilarious. And he was like, there was a sort of ensuite bathroom thing, and he was changing in it, and he called out to one of the guys because he'd left his trousers outside that he wanted to wear on stage, and he didn't have any boxers on or anything. He just opened the door and went, "Oi mate, pass us some trousers," and it's just everything was out. I was just like, oh God.
Eyes forward.
I can't ever forget that. That's indelible. Yeah, right there in my brain. Tony Hadley, Starkers.
Well, that's not really that bad a thought, actually. And I can think of a lot worse.
Yeah.
Paul Young, obviously not Starkers, but Paul Young again. Did you tour with Paul, or did you just...
Paul, and when I was doing ABC, Paul was there, and I did backing vocals, I think, on a couple of his gigs. But he was always there. Tony was there.
Oh, Dave Stewart. What was Dave Stewart like?
Dave Stewart was just... probably the coolest guy I've ever met.
Yeah?
Literally. I mean, he's just, I don't know what's going on internally, whether he really is like that, but he's just the shades, the little hat.
Is he tall?
No, he's not actually.
See, I didn't think he was.
No, I think he's about the same as maybe 5'9", something like that. But yeah, I didn't meet Annie at the time. It was just his own sort of gig. But yeah, very, very tall. Very cool. And in the rehearsal, Brian May walked in, because they're very good friends.
Right.
And he was in the next room rehearsing. And he's lovely. And he was sort of walking around. I wasn't doing anything with him, but it was lovely to meet. I've always wanted to meet him, you know.
How cool is that? So you're in with Dave, and then he suddenly walks past.
And then yeah, Brian came in. He was like, "Hi, I'm Brian." I was like, "I know you are, mate."
That was when they introduced themselves.
I know that hair. Yeah, he's lovely.
But obviously not as cool as Michael Ball. Michael's
a different kettle of fish. He's yeah, he's Michael's everywhere, isn't he? Radio, TV.
Who's his agent? Who the hell's his agent?
I don't know, but I need his agent.
Oh my God!
Good point.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll check his agent out.
Honestly, you can literally, when you turn you're right, the advert's on, or he's doing an interview, or he's on the TV, and you just think like you're everywhere all at the same time. How can that be possible?
He does. I mean, Michael works so hard, and my husband Steve has played in his band for well over 20 years.
Really?
So I've met him lots, and then I did some stage work with him myself, and he's lovely, but he does a lot of charity work, which you know, I take my hat off to. Lots of people do, but I think he really loves it.
Does he? Because he keeps it more under wraps, doesn't he? Because there's because there's those that do the charity, and you wonder if they're virtue signalling. And is it about the charity, or is it actually about me looking good?
Yeah.
So, well, actually, I'm going to take you now. We've talked about. We can segue nicely into the charity that you support. What's their name?
Rushden Dog Rescue.
Fabulous.
It's a mother and daughter charity based in Somerset.
And how did you get involved with that?
Basically, I was on I'd lost my little Boo, my dog, and so a friend of mine had a gorgeous dog that looked just like Boo, and I messaged her on Facebook, said, "Wow, what a gorgeous dog! Where'd you get it from?" Mad woman in Somerset runs Rushden Dog Rescue, and I was like, never heard of it, and she said, "Oh, you know, get in touch with her. She's great." And basically, I just phoned her up, and how many years? 6 years ago, maybe. And I sat on the front lawn in the front house for about 2.5 hours on the phone to her. And you know, it's like when you speak to someone, it's like talking to yourself or something, or your sister or something. You know, you're long lost, whatever. And we just clicked really. And I mean, she's as mad as a box of chocolate frogs, but then she probably says that about me. But she works with her daughter, and they're predominantly trying to save dogs from slaughter in China. That's what their sort of their mission is. You went over to China, didn't you? So me and Cindy went over there and stayed for probably, I think it was about 8 days in the end, and that was like, I mean, one day would have been enough. I was going to say, I actually don't think I could have done that psychologically, because what you must have seen. Well, I mean, I think we could have seen a lot more. I think the activist that we worked with over there, she sort of refused to take us to a couple of places because they would be so horrific that I think I would have not made it out of China. I would have just stepped in. You know, if you're going to see a golden retriever boiled alive, then you don't just watch it, do you? You step in and you try and do something about it. So, so she knew that we were probably best not to go to us, but we did go to a couple of other places. We went to a restaurant, a dog eating restaurant, and then we saw literally like the skins of a collie and a chihuahua, and you know, with nothing in it. It was just the fur and the head and stuff. So, you know, it was horrific, and we knew what was going on. I knew where the meat markets were, and because they grab dogs off the street, even if you're literally walking your dog, don't they? Even if you're walking your dog, the police will come up and say, that dog is too big, that dog is too small. But why? What's... there is no reason. They just don't want people having... They don't want it, but then at the same time, if you're walking down the street, there are billboards with like a cute little cat and a kid with a lollipop, you know, looking at the cat, and so they... It doesn't make any sense. So there's mixed totally bizarre, and... so yeah, and you know, and I've been, so Cindy gets lots and lots, she's in touch with people in China all the time on WeChat, which is the media they have there, and you know, and then she sends me lots of things, and it's just terrific, you know, videos of people that have captured a woman, you know, being pushed aside, and a policeman grabbing a poodle. Actually, they grab them with the sticks and the wires, they put it over their head, and then they flick them into the truck, the waiting on the sort of on the roadside, and that's the last they'll see of their dog, you know. So they do that, and there's lots of other things. So they, you know, the police, they don't allow people into those areas anymore where there are meat markets. Well, Western people. Because I could imagine a lot of Western activists would be going over there, wouldn't they? As well. They've completely clamped down. They've completely clamped down. So how when you were over there, did you actually bring any dogs back? Did Cindy actually arrange that? What we did, so there are places that they call them shelters, but they are so run down, and the women that run them can't afford to, they can just about afford to feed them, and I don't even know what they feed them, it's not great, but So some of the shelters are really bad, and they don't spay them, so there's babies everywhere, and some of them aren't alive, and so you're walking over dead puppies and things. And but so we went to the various shelters, and Cindy just walks around, and she will quite often, well, actually all of the time, she'll just say, right, this one's coming home, this one's coming home, this one, this one, and she will choose the older dogs that look like they need just to have a couple of years, whatever they have left in their lives. She wants them to have a kind of life that they should have deserved. And
can I just ask, when she's walking around, when you're walking around with and the animals see you, is there a sense from them that they know that something is kind is coming their way?
Completely. And I think that Cindy has this because her whole life is, I mean, she has her daughters, but you know, her life is about dogs, and she lives with them 24/7. She's not a rescue and they go into their little home and then she goes home for the day and comes back at 9 a.m. They sleep with her, they eat with her, they're there all the time. And there's 80 dogs, you know, minimum at one time living in Freedom Farm. So yeah, they know when I was walking around, they do. I mean, they coming up to me and they're like, oh, hello, who are you?
Yeah.
But with her, they just swarm around her, you know, it's just amazing to watch. And then she wants to take them all, but she can't afford it because it's about, with all the bloods and the paperwork and everything, it's about, and the flights, you're talking minimum of $3,500 per dog.
Per dog?
Yeah.
And how many dogs does she try and get per month? Or
so on the last trip I did with her, she chose, I think it was 18 dogs. But you see, since COVID, the Chinese have put a stop on dogs coming out, and no rescue dogs are allowed to leave China anymore. So the only way that, in fact, I can't say on camera because she can't let anyone know how she does it. Okay. But she's the only person out of all the other charities and all the individual people that are rescuing dogs from China that has been able to get dogs out of China. And the reason why she can't say in public, because she gets asked all the time, is because everyone else will do it. Yeah. And then they'll get found out, and then there'll be no dogs. Yeah. So while COVID's been going on, she's got over 100. It doesn't sound much, but she's got over 100 dogs that have been waiting to leave China, out of China, and that's almost impossible.
I mean, that's some sort of strength. And I've just met your rescue dog. Yeah.
My little Charlie.
He's really enjoying the sunshine, isn't he? He's like jumped on the outside bed furniture there, and he's just having a lovely time, isn't he? So where did you get him from?
Marty's from Romania, actually.
All right.
And so yes, there was a friend of mine who had gone too far with the adoption process. Right. And her situation changed. So instead of Marty staying there, I said to Steve, we need to get her out. And she was in a concrete compound and never seen grass or anything. So, you know, for about 18 months, maybe 2 years, I think, of her life. And so when we brought her here, she was surrounded by sheep and farmers, and she was a little bit too interested in the sheep. So we just had to kind of wean her out of that. And yeah, she's gradually just starting to realise that this is her life now, you know. It takes ages. It's just when people that get rescue dogs don't realise that it's such a slow process. You think, well, it's been 2 weeks now, and there's no change, you know.
Yeah, but it's a long time. They've been a long time the other way, so it's going to take some time. Yeah. So coming full circle, and you mentioned Steve, so we have to say that Steve is your husband.
He's my husband.
And how long have you been married?
Since 2011. So it's coming up to 10 years, actually.
Now, I know that you work together, and he's just shown me a video that he shot with you. Yeah. So what have you got going forward, the pair of you? Are you going to be working together more?
Yes, definitely.
Because you've got a new single coming out, haven't you?
Well, I think during lockdown, the only kind of positive thing for us, apart from losing all of our work, was to sit down and really sort of just write as much as I could. And I wrote on my own. I wrote a little bit with Steve, and I wrote quite a lot with Corey. So I've got a lot of material. So I've managed to get a third album together. But being able to get into a studio and work with the people I want to work with is quite difficult. So I've had to do a lot of stuff remotely, you know, and you can't, you know, to tell someone what's in your head is quite difficult.
And it's tough, isn't it? Because you've really, I mean, your profession of, you know, all the entertainment professions, they literally have just been left, haven't they? They've been absolutely left, and nobody has sort of said, well, what are we going to do work-wise? It's just been this sort of silence, and then, well, we'll wait and see, in a few months we'll let you know. I mean, emotionally, how has that been for you to be able to cope with that?
Well, I mean, beyond anything we ever thought possible, to be honest, because I think really this whole COVID thing is just, you know, with my fellow musicians and things, we're sending each other messages saying, are we actually meant to be here anymore? We just feel like that, you know, we're here for a reason, right? And we're creating something, and it's, you know, the world, you know, moves along, and art and music and fashion and everything is the thing that paves the way, and how people think, and it's like food for the soul. And music is, you know, people will say, oh my God, I love this song, it reminds me of, oh my God, I love this song, oh my God, I hate this song because it reminds me of, but it's, our whole lives are based around that. To suddenly go from that to, I mean,
just switch your Netflix
do you want to kind of think of another career while you're not earning anything, and maybe, you know. And we were getting things from the government, you know, the feedback on that ridiculous app that someone came out with was that Steve, who's always played the drums, was in the Royal Marines when he was 15 playing the drums.
Right.
Has worked with everyone, you know, in the world, and then he gets told that he should be a forklift truck driver. So
I mean, you couldn't really make this rubbish up, could you?
No.
And I know there's a Tesco's in Kent where it's full of West End musicians and actors. They said that you've got a better chance of seeing a show in the Tesco's in Kent than you do anywhere else. And like you say, for I mean, we when we look back in time, all our history, or, you know, we look back at the music, we look back at the fashion, at the dress, they create memories, and it's really, really vital. And I am staggered, really staggered, and really upset that it's just been left to flounder, like it's irrelevant. Like you say, go and get yourself a job in the... Well, no, this is vital. And who is to say what is vital and what isn't? Because to a lot of people, this is vital. And that, I'm not just talking about the artists, I'm talking about the people who enjoy it. And we don't all want to sit and put our Netflix on night after night after night, or just watch soaps, you know. So it has been tough, but when this ends, and like everything, dear God, it will end, where do you see yourself then going forward?
Forklift truck driver.
Oh no, I'm going for that one. There's not space for two.
All right, then what was the other one? I was circus ring master, or someone came up with that. I was like, oh my God. Where will I see? Well, I'm working on it now. I mean, it's, you know, I'm very old school, and I desperately want to get another album out. I know people are bringing out EPs. You know, does anyone buy music anymore? Everyone downloads things and it's streaming, and you know, and we're all dealing with that because it's taking over the world, and you have to adapt to it. But I still think, you know, there's nothing wrong with a good album, and if every song on it is good, then people are going to buy the album, surely. Yeah,
I agree.
So, you know, and I'm not just saying it because I've written it, but you know, that's why I'm so picky at stuff, because I don't want to have fillers on albums, you know. Joni Mitchell never had a filler on an album. Do you know what I mean? Oh, it's an album filler. She's never had that.
Well, I've been, I can't get out Christmas Kiss, and I know you've done lots of tracks, but for some reason Christmas Kiss is in my head, and I can't get it out. And I played it to my daughter Chancey, and she's just absolutely loving it. And you know, you look fabulous. I have to say, you look really sexy on that. Who shot that?
Steve on an iPhone.
I want him to shoot me. He's bloody brilliant. Just washing up, Steve. I don't need to be doing this. I can't sing, but I'll just wash up and do it. But listen, I really appreciate you taking the time with me today, Mim. I'm a big fan, and I wish you every success.
Thank you.
In the future,
thank you for having me.
As I do all the artists. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So I'm going to put a couple of the links below on Mim's tracks. And Mim, if you'd like to give us the name of the 2 albums that you've done.
The first album is called Grey Matters, and the second album is called Chasing Tigers.
So if you've enjoyed this interview with Mim today, please join us on Smart Talking Women, where we're going to have a lot more interviews and a lot more guests. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye. So, Mim, if you'd like to give it...
She's gone now. The whole Rowland thing has fucked her up.
Oh, God. I'm getting my voice back.
I thought, sorry? You're supposed to speak up.
Oh, I don't mind laughing at my desperate life.
Right, see if you can get this last line out.
Right, so we're going to put a couple of links to Mim's tracks on the website. So, Mim, if you'd like to give us the name of
Yeah, below. Just you don't say the website of that.
This will take 5 hours.
Yeah. She's gone.
Don't!
So we're going to put a couple of links to...
It's going to take some time, folks.
It's our fault. It's our fault. Oh, we're going to put a couple of links to Mim's tracks.
That's it.
Oh, I might have to do this on my own.
Yeah, come on, then.
I'll stop laughing.
Is that like Mickey Mouse?
Minnie. With helium.
I know.
Oh, I'm tiny now. I'm tiny.
That's the tightest I've sounded your voice for some years, isn't it? Sorry, Chauncey. Hello. Can't pick you up.
Can you walk home, please?
I just had this vision while I'm trying to get it right. Mim's face going.
Smart talking women.
Think like this. Get me out of here.